Hi, John Pecora. Hi, Harlan Furbush.
Hi, Kim. Good morning.
Good morning. Who is B? They're coming up on the screen as just a B. It's going to be our mystery person.
Hey, Kim, are these recorded?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes. I just turned it on because generally I try to get on a few minutes beforehand. So.
Okay, good. Well, I'm happy some people are on. It's always scary, like nobody's going to be on here.
No, you know what? I received the nicest note Tuesday from an agent that I've never seen on here. But she sent me the nicest text and she said, I absolutely love the Coffee with a Capper series. Don't stop doing them. She said,
good.
I learn something from every single person.
I agree.
You know, so I was kind of like, but I never see you on here. But then, you know, it's like, okay, so they're watching via YouTube. What does it matter, right?
Yeah.
So,
I was talking to Jeff Lamica yesterday, and he said that he has, you know, when he's mentoring people, there's one girl that he has now who's a part-time agent, and she was complaining that she was never going to build her business because she's part-time. And he gave her the recording to mine because I was part-time for 3 years and, you know, still was able to build my business. He goes, it's so nice to have those recordings because there's something in it for everybody. And he's very in tune to what we have. So he's sharing these with people he thinks can use the information. So, I mean, he's a great guy, but I was like, you know, you never know that you're going to impact somebody. So just get on these things, say what you're going to say, because your story is going to resonate with somebody.
Right. Although I'm sure there is something, a part of it where it's, you know, nerves, you know, like, are people going to watch me? Are people going to, you know, so.
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
I know. But everybody goes through it. So.
I'm here for you, Jodi.
There's
you.
Thank you.
There's Jeff Cohen who just joined KW in January, February, talks about having recordings and anything worth saying is worth being recorded. So everybody that provides value on the Coffee with Cappers or whatever it is should be recorded because we don't know how it's going to impact somebody else that doesn't know anything or can't see anything. So I think doing this is awesome, and having it recorded is even better because it's available forever. And there's always some value that somebody's going to get sometime at some point.
Absolutely. So usually what happens is people start to kind of trickle on, Jodi. So usually we get started about 5 after, 6 after, because I know, like, I think now people are dealing with kids and maybe the bus schedule or, you know, whatever. So so B is Eileen Weber, she said. Not sure why.
I see Andrea's training her how
how to fix that.
Yeah.
So so how have you been, Jodi?
Good. Crazy, a little crazy, but it's all good.
Are you in your office or where are you at?
I am. I'm here. I'm right down the hall from you.
Well, you're gonna have to, like, we're gonna have to say hello to each other in person.
Yes, we are. My lighting at my house, I thought it would be better to be here because the lighting at my house when I'm on these calls, it's not great. Like, I love sitting by my back door, but then it's not good. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go in the office.
Yeah, you got the darkness and the shadows and so on and so forth.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh dear. Hi, Tammy. She snuck on there. I didn't see her before.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I had to unmute myself first.
I know. It's okay. So, all right. Well, I think we'll work on getting started here. I want to just, you know, be cognizant of the people that have jumped on and, you know, they're on time, and, you know, those that kind of hop on later, it's fine. They can go back and watch the recording like we just talked about. So I want to say thank you to Jodi for joining us this morning. I
Sure.
really appreciate you taking the time out of your day and, getting up nice and early and joining us this morning. So we greatly appreciate that. You have an interesting story to tell. Actually, everybody has so far.
Everybody does, yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess I'll just have you start by just, give us some of your background, like, and even before real estate, kind of like tell us, what you did in your past life and what led to real estate.
Okay. All right. Well, when you get to my age, it's like, where do I start? All right. So basically, my background is I'm educated as an engineer. I went to RIT. So that was the very beginning of my professional career. And I graduated from there in 1983. So that was a long time ago. And I did practice as an engineer for many years. I found that I didn't really like being around all the engineers. It wasn't my brain. And so I shifted probably within about 5 or 6 years into a high dollar sales environment. So I worked for Kodak during that time when I first started, and I stayed with Kodak and I went into their copier duplicator division. So I sold in the day when it was a crazy environment, Xerox versus Kodak, I sold copier duplicators in a very competitive environment. I did that in Dallas and Fort Worth, Texas. So my husband and I met at RIT and we got married and we moved to Texas. So we were there for 12 years. That's where our kids were born. And so when I fit in a y'all here and there, sometimes it's because I was there for 12 years. So y'all sometimes just fit sometimes. So, but that was an interesting sale, kind of complex sale process, very competitive. Oh my gosh, I learned a lot. And once I had my kiddos, I shifted and made the commitment to be a mom and resigned from that career. Did very well in that career. It was a huge financial decision for our family to do that, but it was something that we really wanted to make happen. Being a full-time stay-at-home mom was great, but it didn't last long. So during that time, I was in a direct sales company for 16 years. So that really gave me kind of the training and the knowledge of the model of an appreciation for the model that is Keller Williams, as far as the pay scales go with recruiting and, making residual income off of your team, et cetera. I did 16 years of in-home sales, booths, selling to special needs folks, and just kind of always thought about what the needs of the client were in that environment, just like I did with copier duplicators, just like I'm doing with houses, what are the needs of the client? So, I always kind of had to go that route because sales, as a salesperson, always has kind of a negative connotation sometimes in some people's minds, like, oh my gosh, I'm a car salesman. But I never thought of it that way. I always thought of it as I'm helping people, and just had to figure out how to have the language to help them in the right way so that they bought my product. So did that for 16 years. And then later on in my career, when I thought I wanted a real job, before I came into real estate, I worked at RIT, and it was kind of my give back position, but I was the director of the Women in Engineering program there. And that was really cool because I was very much part of helping other young women get through what I did multiple years ago, and was very active with recruiting, retention training, and educating pre-college young girls that engineering could be a viable career for them. So that was a huge gig. But as soon as my kids were eligible and out of college and I didn't need college benefits, real estate was always on my radar. So that's when once Brian, my youngest, got through his college commitments and I didn't need the college benefits, real estate was where I was at. So 2016, I resigned from a pretty good full-time gig, like really good pay, did that big shift again to like going from big money to like zero income again, and took my two-week class, got licensed, like I resigned October 31st. November, I went to my class. December 1st, I was working for Nagel. So that was 2016.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's pretty impressive. So clearly you like pain. You like
I
to
know.
go
Oh my God. What
from
the heck?
abundance to nothing. You've
Ay,
done
ay,
that
ay.
a couple times.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So, so when you did all of that, I know,
Yes.
you know, back in its heyday, I know, like
Mhm.
even when I moved to Rochester in 2001, Nothnagel was the place to be because of the
Sure.
training and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. So what drew you there, or did you even interview other places, or how did you decide upon that?
Well, that's a really good question. So when we moved here in 98, we connected with an agent that worked for Nothnagel. And in our neighborhood, and I watched all those years. I always thought real estate would be really great to do, but I knew that my commitment was with my kids, and I always watched the realtors kind of be crazy. And when we moved here, I was still that full-time mom, but had that side business, direct sales business, which was crazy too, but not as crazy as real estate. But Kathy Keogh. Anybody know Kathy Keogh? So Kathy Keogh was our realtor in 1998. And Kathy Keogh is kind of like Bob Brulin, but she's Kathy Keogh, Miss Fairport. Fairport is her area. And when we moved here, we live in Chili, by the way, she thought we were nuts to move into Chili. We needed to be on the east side. So, but anyways, I became friends with Kathy over the years. I referred her to other people. I watched all these Nothnagel signs be in my neighborhood. And so those are the houses that sold. If they didn't sell and they were with another realtor company, they didn't sell, then all of a sudden the sign was Nothnagel, got switched, and then they sold. So I always knew Nothnagel was where I was going to go. And I reached out to Kathy because I thought it would be awesome. Here I was going from this thing at RIT to nothing. And I thought it would be great to learn from somebody like Kathy. So I had reached out to Kathy, and she just thought I was crazy to go into real estate. Why would I do this? And she thought, oh my gosh, you should move to Fairport now because it's so far from Chili to Fairport. And I'm like, no, Kathy, I'm a hockey mom. Like, I drive to Albany for a game and back. Like, you don't understand. Like, going to Fairport is nothing. Like, you don't. So anyways, we worked it out, and I did start with Nothnagel, and I also thought it would be really cool to work for somebody experienced like Kathy and maybe do some things for her and also have maybe some money, make some money on the side supporting her while I learn the business. So actually I became her closing and showing and I don't know, everything for her. And she paid me on the side, through all those deals until she forgot that I was also a realtor. So I know how to do all the admin stuff. I'm not an admin, but I clearly know how to do all of that. And I'm very detail oriented and I could help her a lot, but I really didn't want to be a full-time admin. I wanted to be a realtor. So Andrea, if anybody was on the call with Andrea a couple of weeks ago, she brought up how I quickly in about 2 months called Andrea and said, Andrea, what did I do? I'm like, this isn't the right fit. And I really don't want to be somebody's admin. I don't want to be introduced as their admin. I want to be introduced as their colleague that I'm learning the business, So she helped connect me with another person in Nothnagel. And within 24 hours, I switched from the Fairport office to the Chili Ogden office and connected with the branch manager at the time was John Myjak, and who then evolved to Tina Visconti over there. And that was actually a great fit and I loved it, and then I went through all the Nothnagel Howard Hanna transition, all that stuff. And I actually liked being part of the Chili Ogden office and, being a solo realtor. And within 2 months, I knew I could be fine and was already, having stuff happen. So, that's what happened. I didn't interview. I just made it. I was like, this is where I want to be. So kind of what happened when I switched to Keller Williams. I was like, some stuff happened at Howard Hanna and it was enough that happened that I was like, okay, Andrea, what are you doing now? And so I reached out to Andrea. Oh yeah, that's right. You switched to Keller Williams. And so I didn't interview or anything. I just knew this was the right place. So that happened in September of last year.
Cool. So what have you found to be your biggest differences, I guess, between the two companies? Like, obviously you were ready for a different part, you know,
Sure.
something different in your life again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do you think that that might have been, and how have we helped you to get there?
Oh, good. Well, I always have enjoyed education. I've always been kind of a maverick as far as, okay, great, you have your stuff going on here. I'll go to the academy, I'll do all that. But look at all this other stuff that's over here. So I still always took advantage of these other things that are over there. Well, Keller Williams is like crazy with education, even so much better than anything I was part of in my other organization. I understood the pay structure, so that once I learned that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Like the potential for more money, because at that point I was at a level where I realized kind of, you know, I maxed out at Keller at what company was that? Howard Hanna. I had, you know, gotten to the point where you max out at 70% there. So I was there within my second year. So then once I understood the model here, I'm like, oh my gosh, the pay difference was huge. So that was huge. The biggest, I think, difference that I've realized since I've been here is the culture. We all hear this, but if I really had to compare, it was more of a corporate culture at Howard Hanna versus an entrepreneurial culture here. I've always more resonated with an entrepreneurial culture in all my different gigs in the past. So I really appreciate that. I really also appreciate the openness. Like we never had that as far as when people ask questions on Facebook, like no matter what level you're at, it's like I feel like it's quite unique. Like it's a safe place. Like people ask questions and I'm like, you've been doing this for how long? And you're asking this question and you feel safe asking this question. And people are actually giving you like really good information. Like that's been very refreshing for me since I've been here. That's not something that I would have known unless I lived it, but it is something that I talk about if I'm comparing and contrasting with other people. Now that I'm over my year, I can do this more with, I don't have to get sued for for recruiting with Howard Hanna from Howard Hanna, yeah, so I guess, I don't know if that answers your question. That's a long answer, sorry, but.
No, it sort of does. Let's talk numbers, because I know that you love that. On a side note, I was here when Jodi came over to Keller Williams, and I didn't do your onboarding or anything like that, but I know that you and I had sat together, you know, quite a few times, and I showed you where various things were and so on and so forth. Jodi is the only person that I know of that actually had a very, very itemized spreadsheet of all of her wants and needs. Oh wow, it's color coded now. It wasn't before, but I mean like right down to the sign writers. How many sign writers do I need for pendings, for solds, and any idea that you had for a sign writer, you incorporated that into your spreadsheet. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this woman knocked my socks off. Like you are
the sign lady loved me too.
You are just
got the signs from
of organization, and you are my idol for sure.
Oh God, thank you. Oh gosh.
But let's talk numbers. So, okay. So you joined, you became an agent in 2016. You were licensed by the end of 16.
Right.
So let's walk us through your numbers. Like, what was your first year? What was your second year? And I know you know all these off the top of your head. So.
Well, I don't have them on the top of my head because I don't have a lot of brain cells left to keep some information in my brain and I don't really want to remember it, but I do want to know it. So I do have it. So because I do track it. So, and actually Andrea, I always remembered in my trainings at the academy that Andrea led, where I was like, oh my God, it's really cool that she tracked her numbers so she could kind of see her growth, like with transactions and things. So that I started out from day one, even though you're like, oh God, I only have this and where am I going with this? But now after I have 3 years, it's pretty cool how the numbers change. So I did print it out so that I could not have it memorized, but I have it here. So, so I got licensed in 2016 late. As you heard, December 1st was when I started. And then 2017 was my first full year.
Yep.
And I didn't have my first transaction. Like, it was quite frustrating because I did a lot of work, like so many new agents do, a lot. Like, you're doing a ton of stuff and you're like, oh my God, is anything going to happen here? What's going to happen? And I think I closed my first transaction like in June of that year.
Okay.
And the year ended with 12 transactions. I had 9 buyers, 2 sellers, and 1 renter.
Okay.
So that was the number of transactions, and I ended the year with a little over 1.6 million in that first year. So that was 2017. That was pretty cool because actually I did more than that because I carried over $1 million in like transactions from that year into 2018. So
Nice.
I've always had really strong falls, and so it's wonderful because then I start that year in that plus side and you're not waiting for the deal to happen. So I actually wrote about 2.5 million in that first year total. So 2018, I ended up doing 31 transactions, so more than doubled my activity level. And that was 22 buyers and 9 sellers,
Nice.
listers. And that I ended the year at 5 million. And by the way, my average transaction size was like 137 the first year and then 161 the next year.
Nice.
And then 2019, I grew a little bit more. 2019 was a big transition year, right? Because I was in the middle in the summer trying to think about, I knew that I was probably going to make a change. So I did a lot, it was probably, I don't know, Andrea, probably a 3-month conversation starting in about June. And then I finally made the switch in September. So it was a big transition, you're kind of, you have to, what's that?
You were quicker than that. You actually wanted to be like 3 or 4 months out, but I think it happened sooner than that. It just kind of was like, okay, I made my decision. I'm just going to go. It's hard to be in limbo. So.
Yeah, it's hard because you're going to lose, there's a transition somewhere along the way, right? So you gotta have your drop dead date somewhere. And there's a few transactions that you're probably in the middle of. So it's hard to time it, but I looked at it where I was going to minimize my losses, because if I didn't do it at some point, then I was going to keep having transactions with Howard Hanna and have to keep still having a relationship there, right? So you got to make the decision and go. So that's right, Andrea. I was like originally going to be like November, and then when I made my decision, I'm like in August, I'm like, okay, let's do it Labor Day. So that's what happened. So anyways, I ended the year with 36 transactions, close to $6 million, and again, I had about $1 million carried over into 2020, which was awesome, especially with the way 2020 has gone. So thank God I had that at least. So that third year was great. I did 2019, close to 6 million, really wrote 7 million as a solo agent. So I don't have an admin. And I'm fine. Like, I have systems in place where I'm fine. And so 2020 is a different story because of what we've lived through. My goal was actually to do 7 or 8 million this year. That's not going to happen. So I'm probably going to be half of what my goal is, maybe a little over half. And because it's crazy right now, we'll see what happens. But I have enough in my pipeline with what I know I'm working on that I'll probably land around 4 or 4.5 for the year, which is way lower than I want to be, but it is what it is. And on paper, I'm actually okay because I did the PPP and pays increased, right? I capped. So it's wonderful. Yeah. But right now I'm sitting at like 21 trend sides and I have about 10 more in the works. Okay. That if they go the way I think they're going to go, they'll close this year. So that's good. That's cool. Good.
No, yeah. That's very good. So you talk about this. So the trend that I pulled out of this is your amazing ability to have a fantastic fall that carries you into the early part of the next year.
I feel very strongly about that.
What do you do specifically to do that? Obviously, that just doesn't happen. Maybe it was a fluke your first year, right? But that doesn't keep happening just because. What things do you do to I guess, winterize yourself for lack of a better, so that, everybody always says, like, stuff dies, as we get towards the holidays and stuff, the focus kind of shifts from houses and so on and so forth. And then really it doesn't start till the spring market. And I think people think of spring market as being March, April, May, when in all actuality, I think really spring market hits, as early as the end of January, February. So what are you doing, sister?
Oh, well, what you just said is everybody thinks that things slow down in the fall. And so that's what they say, right? So I think a lot has to do with your mindset is number one. I am in the business to be a realtor. So there are people that need to sell their house and there's people that need to buy their house, and not everybody needs to be in that sell cycle, right? We've been in a market where we have a shortage of homes, and whether you list your home now and you're maybe this year, without taking into consideration this year, but if you list your home in the fall, there's still been in the last 3 or 4 years a lot of leftover buyers that still need to buy houses in the fall. And in the fall, to me, if you list your house, there's not as many other houses that you're competing with. It's sort of the conversation that we've had on all of these calls that Anthony's had with COVID, during COVID. Should we list now or should we wait till we get through this, right? It's kind of the same mindset of the fall, if I think about it from a sales cycle point of view. So, and not everybody needs to buy in the spring. Like, not everybody has kids in school. There's a lot of young buyers, right? There's a lot of people that are in the senior community. Like, there's people like me. I don't care what time I buy a house or move, right? I don't have any calendar to, affect me as far as my needs with kiddos and stuff. So, and I also know from past experience, we have sell cycles, right? So when you think about it, we really have a 6-month sell cycle. Everybody says 3 months, but we really have a 6-month sell cycle, 3 months to kind of build a relationship and get to know people. Well, once we do a deal with them, it's another 2 to 3 months before we close. That literally is a 5 to 6 month sell cycle. We don't get paid for, So like, if you wait in your mind, if you don't find a way to have those words and find those clients and meet those people to kind of keep it going, then it's going to be March or April till you have a deal again for the next year because you've stopped everything.
Right.
And I love the holidays. I decorate. My house is always the house everybody comes to, but it doesn't mean, like, when I was in the corporate working world, I worked on the day before Thanksgiving. Like, I still cook my Thanksgiving meal. So I feel like I can write a deal on the day before Thanksgiving. And I have, right? So, and actually I literally have written a deal the day before Thanksgiving, and then where nobody else was doing it, and got it accepted. I'm like, okay, this is cool. I'm cooking my turkey and I'm writing deals. Okay. What's the difference if I worked in the corporate world and worked all day, or if I'm, doing real estate? So I don't know, that's again, a long answer, but I think it's worth talking about because you do have to have that conversation when you're listing homes right now. It's always should I wait? Everybody tells me I should wait. And I'm like, well, if you wait, what are you waiting on? Let's talk about that. Like, you're waiting on your taxes. You got to maintain your home. Now you're buying a home. Now you have an empty home. Like, right. I have buyers sitting here waiting to buy houses. So let's list it. Let's make it the best possible and get it out there. And we're still going to get the price you want. Okay. So we get 3 offers instead of 20. All right. Whatever. So you have to talk people through that, but I think it is a mindset.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things too, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I've never sold real estate, but I've always come to the conclusion that the people that are actually out pounding the pavement, like let's say specifically between Thanksgiving and Christmas, are those really that truly need to move or want to move. They're not just the people that are kind of wandering around and, whatever. So I think that there's probably a different sense of urgency too. That people are real, right? So you don't, the time that you spend with them is a good time that you've spent, right?
Yeah.
Because
and it is different, right? Because it gets dark earlier. So like, you kind of have to be prepared, right? So like, I'm walking out with my lantern and they're like, what's that? And I go, well, it's dark out. We got to look at this house, right? So I have a lantern that's like pull it up, lights up, and like, let's go look at this house. Let's make sure, sometimes people aren't thoughtful about having lights on in their house, So I'm like, well, we got to have a flashlight. We got to see. And okay, so we look at it at night. Well, we might have to make an appointment to go back and walk around the outside during the day. Okay, that's, it's a little bit more work with some of these homes, but like, it is what it is, get your boots out. I have rain boots in my car now. If I'm walking the fields, my boots are going on. I've got them on with my dress, so it is what it is. So, but there's still a need.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So what do you think that, where does most of your business come from? Like how, you started out with, 12 units, and then I think the next year you doubled it and stuff. So where does your business come from? I know that you were really involved in RIT. So do you still have connections there? Do you work and massage that relationship? Things like that.
So it's
how do you get yourself out there, I guess?
It's kind of varied. So, I have always been a believer. So I haven't paid for any leads. I'll just put it out there. Okay. I haven't paid for any leads.
Right.
I do I'll call it multi-channel marketing. Okay. So the way I look at marketing or putting yourself out there is you've got to do some things that are very deliberate. You've got to do some things where you're probably walking the pavement, and you've probably got to do some things where you're like promoting that you're a realtor. Maybe it's a passive way, right? So I think it's important to be a walking advertisement. So there's some things that I do that are kind of like little tricks where I forget that I'm putting myself out there. So that kind of sounds weird, right? But okay, so I don't know if you can see, but I have a name tag on, right? Okay, I wear this name tag pretty religiously. I don't take it off
all the time.
All the time. I do not take it off if I go to the grocery store or if I go to Home Depot. And it's that little trick because I'm not really good about saying I'm a realtor. Like, hey, do you need a house to, like, I'm just not that person, but I'm really good if somebody says, oh, I see that you're a realtor, so I do things to kind of get the conversation going. You kind of have to put yourself out there. So those are some of, that's a trick that I do. I have a magnet on the side of my car. I forget that I have that there, and all of a sudden somebody's at the stoplight staring. I'm like, what are they looking at? And I'm like, oh my God, that's right. I have a magnet on my car. So that would be passive, right? I would say to start out, I did a lot of the traditional things that people coach you to do, right? They say, oh, you got to farm, you've got to, you got to do mailings, you got to pick a neighborhood to mail things out to. And I'm like thinking, yeah, but like, how many times do I have to mail it to? And oh my God, the postage is like so expensive. And really, then I have to do it like every month for 6 months. Oh my God, that's like 300 houses. And I want to do 2 neighborhoods. That's now 600 pieces of mail. Oh my God, that's crazy. So literally what I did was I did put my list together. So I think that's really, really important. And that list has grown. So I did not go, no, they would never buy a house. I didn't do that. I just said, who the heck do I know? And what age are their kids? Because now I have these people that I adore that adore me, and they have kids that are buying houses. So I'm like, I want to be that. So I did that list, and I found different ways to push that out. Like with Howard Hanna, we had a way to, on a monthly basis, just do a newsletter. I didn't care what was in the newsletter. I didn't care. I didn't spend time creating a newsletter. I literally didn't care what the message was. It wasn't even messages that I liked, but I didn't care because it went out once a month and it was branded with my name on it. So people were like, oh, I get your newsletter. I'm like, oh, great. Like that was passive, right? Because it went automatic, but it was deliberate, if that makes any sense. Okay. The other thing that I did and that I still do and that I still love doing is, I'm weird, but I love open houses. I love doing open houses. I meet people at open houses that I get as clients, like almost every open house. If there's a body in there and they haven't had an agent, I most always walk away with a client. Now, I've done many open houses with nobody showing up and everybody having agents, but at the beginning, I just was like, I'll do an open house. I did an open house almost every weekend. And then my manager said to me one time when I was like, oh my God, I don't have anybody. He goes, well, how many open houses are you doing? I go, well, I've tried to do like 3 to 4 a month. And he's like, well, why aren't you doing more? I'm like, well, because, I do want to have a weekend. And he goes, yeah, but why wouldn't you book yourself to do 2? Because what happened before, right, is agents would schedule open houses and then the house would sell and then they would cancel them. So here I am booked to do an open house, right? It got canceled and I had nothing. So, right? So
Right.
he was like, well, why aren't you booking yourself with 2 open houses a day on Saturday and Sunday? Because if half of them go away, then you still have 2 open houses. And I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. That's awesome. So I just booked myself in the summer. I would book them on the evenings. A lot of open houses were happening 4 to 6, 6 to 8 in the summer. So I would commit to that. And I built like an amazing, like I had people, one time I did an open house 2 weeks in a row, okay, in a house that didn't sell. And what I did was I sent out an email to everybody that came to the open house the first week and said, hey, if you like the house, it's still available. I'm going to be there this week. Love to see you. Come take a look again. Oh my gosh. I had this lady come and she said, I'm coming here a second time to visit at this open house. She goes, I'm not here for the house. I'm here for you. I have a house to list and I want to buy a house and I want you to work with me. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's awesome. I never met her before, but she just liked the way I, talk to her. And I can't tell you the number of times that people come to open house and because of what I do at the open house, they're like, wow, you're the first agent that's talked to me at an open house. I go, really? Like, so.
Aren't we in the business of talking to people?
What's that?
Aren't we in the business of talking to people?
Yeah, but so how did I learn how to do open houses? I literally went to open houses. Like, if I didn't have an open house, I went to open houses. Like I plotted out, I want to see houses in Greece. I want to see houses in Chile. So I would go on and I would look what open houses were going on. And I didn't have business. I didn't have anything going on. So I'm like, I'm here to work. I want to make, I want to learn the business. So I would map out and I would go to 4 or 5 open houses by myself and introduce myself as an agent, and I would observe, I would get to know the house, but actually what I was getting to know is not only the house in the neighborhood, but I was observing what the agents did. What did they do? And what did I want to do different? What did I like? What did I not like? What was I like impressed with or not impressed with? And so I took the best and left the rest and created my own style, right?
So what do you do? Can you give us a few things that
I think that could be a training, actually. I think I don't know if I really do. I think that could be a training, but I think I do.
Down, sister.
That's fine. I do some kind of cool things to educate people that are coming into that house, whether it's my listing or Harlan's or, or whoever's home that it is listed. I do advertisement of that house on Facebook before I get there. I don't walk the neighborhood. I probably should, but I don't do that. But I do things to engage the people once they're in that house. Mm-hmm. So by providing information about the market, about other open houses, quite honestly, that are going on that maybe they might want to go to if they're at this house. So I do a lot of research before I go to that open house. And it allows me to have wonderful conversations with them about even the value of this house, like based on what else is available around the area. So to me, I'm there to sell that house, right? I'm representing the agent. So my job is to help that agent create interest in that house. So what can I do with that? Now, the other selfish part is I'm there, I want to meet clients. So that's the other hat that I'm wearing, right? But my main primary hat has to be, I got to represent that agent in the best way possible, as professional as possible, to get interest in that house. That's my main job, right? However, I'm doing it because I want to pick up clients. So, how can I do that and build a it's a first impression thing. So I look at it as an interview. It's an interview. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're that agent there. Those people are interviewing you. That's what it is.
So you just gave me just a really good idea, like reversing that. And I think everybody on here can do the same thing. I'm going to start scheduling myself to go to open houses to meet other agents.
Absolutely.
To form relationships. I mean, I know a lot of people. I know their names, right? And I mean, I've been here for 19 years. So, you know, Kathy Keogh, you know, you mentioned, I you know, don't know her well, but I know her. So I'm thinking, this would be a great way for me to get out and just introduce myself and build those relationships, you know, maybe for a recruiting possibility, and same with all of you guys on here. You know,
and it's actually fun. I mean, we're in the business, we love houses, right? So it's actually kind of fun. So
for sure. For sure. So how are things differently for you, you know, during COVID? How has that caused you to change things, or I know that nasty D word.
I don't have open houses, right? So I think that really, I had to kind of think about other ways to pick up clients, and I would say that has, you know, impacted my business, but I haven't stopped doing other things. You know, as I've matured in the business, I've, you know, not just done open houses to meet the people, right? There's other ways that I'm staying in touch with people and things like that. If I could do open house, I was doing open houses. So Harlan will speak to that, right? So even during the COVID time, when everybody else had the fear of God in them, I'm like, well, what are the rules? What do I have to do to protect myself? What do we have to do to protect the house? Oh, they want to do an open house? Okay, I'll do it. So Harlan has been wonderful. I've done several for him. And if my clients are willing to let that happen, I've done my own, just because I know that's what I like to do. So it hasn't been really necessary, or even sometimes it's not in the best interest of the client, because we have these delayed negotiations in the house. I don't like to advertise open house and then cancel it, quite honestly. So it hasn't been in the best interest sometimes with our market even to have open houses, never mind about COVID, right? It's just, so that's impacted things too. But, you know, I still have regular things that I do to put myself out there to still get referrals. So I do get a lot of referrals. Whether it be from my posts on Facebook where they're like, oh like I just had one where somebody was friends with somebody else, and I posted that we did this thing and how I met her, and I asked this girl, like, what I do when I post is I send my post from my business page via text to my client and said, here's the post from our picture, you know, from our, sorry, let me show you.
Oh yeah, I love that.
From our picture, right? So this is our picture, our HGTV opportunity. And then, so I asked them to like it, like my page, and would they share it? So then it pushes it out on their, you know, whatever happens. I don't understand all the way that works, but I understand it leverages everything. So, and I honestly don't care how it works. I just want to know I want to know that it works, I guess.
What result?
So I know that it works. Good. So anyways, this girl called me who was like, I saw that you helped Angela, and I'm friends with Angela on Facebook, and I graduated from high school with her. And I haven't seen her since high school. She's in her mid-30s. I haven't seen her since high school, but I am in this program with ESL, and I've got to have a deal together by the end of May. And I saw that you helped her, and it's a crazy market. Can you help me? Here we are. Yes, sure, no problem. Sure. So I view that as a referral, right? Because of everything that happened that I did in a kind of passive, deliberate way.
Yep. So. Yep. And oh, by the way, you have a husband that will be a taxi and take complete strangers from the hotel to a convention center, and all the while hand out your business cards so that he's making connections.
That's another story, isn't it, Kim?
Sometime y'all have to like poke at Jodi and ask her to talk about that, because
oh my God. Oh God. Okay.
I love him.
Yeah.
So what kinds of questions do you guys have? What do you have something, Jodi, that maybe you want to talk about that I did not touch upon? Oh, do you do anything for past clients?
I do. Yeah. So I do a couple kind of neat things that I thought I would share, that it's a little bit, you probably like, I don't know. I try to find fun things that are kind of conversation starters, you know, or kind of make people think, oh my gosh, that's so cool. That's pretty neat. So I'll just share with you a couple of those kinds of things, if Is that good? Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So I have my props here. So I have some, okay. So for past clients, it's a mix of things. I have a couple of, like I do an annual magnet calendar at holiday time, and I'm going to use holiday time loosely. Like it's been Thanksgiving, it might be, Christmas, Hanukkah, or this year it might end up being the New Year. I don't know. So I'll use that loosely, but I always do that mailing because it's a magnet calendar that goes on their fridge. And I know it's old fashioned, but it works. Like people have everything, like take everything off their fridge, but they've got that darn magnet calendar there. So I do that. I have a mailing company that I've connected with that does 5 pieces a year to my past clients. So 3 postcards and 2 magazines a year. So basically I just upload that database and they go out automatically. They're branded to me. So I really don't want to be stuffing envelopes and doing all of that. So it was worth it to me to do that. Mm-hmm. So that might be perceived as a little bit impersonal, but it's one that's in place that I don't have to think about. So I just have to make sure they have the list. I do special things at different times. Like I just had one where the client, their birthday popped up, and I probably should do it for everybody, but I don't, unfortunately. But her birthday popped up. She happened to live close by me, so I went and got her a bottle of wine that says "Celebrate" on it. And I have these cool, I don't know if you can see them.
Yeah.
Can you see these?
Yeah.
These cool wine glasses.
Oh, home sweet home. Very cute.
You see that? So it just says, so anyways, there's stemless wine glasses that I bought these. They were very reasonable. I found this company, but these are my referral thank yous with a bottle of wine so that I can help them build their wine glass collection. So that's kind of, so that's something that I do. But then I had the opportunity for the birthday, right? To give her one of those and pass that on. So that's something I do. Has anybody done these mailings or seen these magazines?
No.
Okay. Do you see this? This is called American Lifestyle magazine. Yeah. They're not cheap. They're, I don't know, $3 to $4 a piece, but including mailing them. So I don't mail these to my clients. I have a list of about 60 to 75 people that are what I would call sphere influencers. Mm-hmm. You talked about the RIT people. There's some really cool people at RIT that I'm I know pretty well, and they're not my clients yet. They get this magazine. This is a really nice magazine. Look at it's slick. It's all branded. It's got it's so cool. And this one just arrived this week in the mail. So I do 4 of these a year.
Okay.
To that group. It's not crazy expensive because I have a very deliberate group, that 50 or 60 people. That's the group that I do. Yep. If I have a prospect client that I'm working with and they kind of have a special situation going on and I'm like working with them, they're on this list, right? Gotcha. Because I want to do something else besides just have a portal for them.
Yes.
For houses and stuff like that. So these are different than setting up a neighborhood search or something like that online. I think, again, multi-channel, back to that, it's really good to do lots of different things.
Have you gotten business from that you know of?
This right here?
Yeah, because he calls me constantly to do that because Bob does it, Pam does it, you do it, Mary Corcoran may do it, but I have not heard of anybody who has like a return on the investment. I know Bob's been doing it for years.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. This was an investment that I made this year, Andrea. I actually met them and committed to this from what did we go to in February?
Family reunion.
Yeah, thank you.
I was going to ask you if that was your family reunion purchase.
Yeah, this was my investment that I made there and signed up there. So right now, Andrea, this is the 3rd magazine that's gone out. So I'm not sure. I feel like it's a high-level, high-quality magazine. I personally am not in the position to have this go to every one of my clients as well as, 1,000 people. So I'm very, I really thought about who I wanted this to go to at a high level. So I don't know yet. You know, Andrea, that's a good question. I'm gonna kind of gauge that. But right now, on a quarterly basis, my bill is around 200 to 250 for that. That's probably my most expensive thing that I do. So I feel, and because I don't buy lead, like I don't. So, so I'm trying it. I like it because it's pretty.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of cool. I love, like, you can pick out the cover, like you can write the letter, you can customize the letter inside. The magazine is basically put together and then you can customize, which a lot of people don't take the time to do, they don't realize, but it's amazing. Like it has a tear out in here and you can even customize what's on that tear out. Like there's recipes or craft ideas that are all seasonal. So, and they want you to do 6 a year. I was like, I'm not committing to 6 a year. I want to do 4. And they said, yes. So it's all negotiable. So when you're talking to them.
Nice. So you try to time that with the seasons, I would assume, correct?
This is all done. The reason I want to do 4 a year is I just do it seasonally.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So the last one was like red, white, and blue, like in July. It was all, yeah.
Yep. Very cool.
Yeah. So, I don't know, what question was I answering? I don't know what I was answering.
I was asking about, do you do gifts or things like that for past clients or appreciate events and things?
So I do closing gifts. I always, most of the time, like I always try to think about setting a precedence. So, a lot of times you're really excited when you first start and you're customizing, you're shopping and you're putting these baskets together. And I'm like, you got to think about okay, yes, you can do that now. But what if you had 20 in a month? Can you do that, right? Can you? Probably not. Like are you in the gift giving business or are you in the house selling business, right? So you kind of have to think about that. So I decided that I would be consistent and still make a quality gift, but also have it be branded, because then if it's branded, it's advertising, right? It's not a gift. So I'm also cognizant of the financial part of it about my write-offs, because they tell you, you can't write off more than $25 for a personal gift. So I am cognizant of those kinds of things. Again, that's the deliberate part. So I have contracted with Cutco and I do the, the spreaders or the cutters. And so if they get a spreader, I tell them, thank you for spreading the word about my business and me and to all your friends and family. And if they get a cutter, I'm like, I hope you think that I'm the sharpest realtor in the business. So I do some stupid, corny stuff like that. But like, that's what they get. And I mix it, right? They get this or that, or if I do both sides, they get both.
Right.
And it's not a cheap gift. This is like $75, believe it or not. So, but guess what? I don't know if you can see, but every time they spread that frosting on that damn cake, it's got my name and number on there. So
excellent.
Be careful giving your clients a knife, Jodi.
What?
Careful giving your clients a knife. You could get stabbed in the back with one of them.
I know. Thanks, Andrea.
That's why they say keep the knives off the counter.
Right. Yep.
Right. So Jonathan Pecora wants to know if you track where business comes from. I feel like I know this answer, and that's a hard yes.
I do. Yep.
Yes.
Right on I have a tracking sheet, John, that I track my transactions separate from what happens in command and whatever happened with Howard Hanna that I never saw, somebody else saw. So right on there, on one of my columns, I write down where did I get them from. Okay. So that's right with my transaction stuff. All my numbers are right there, all their address, all their everything, and then where did I meet them from? Right.
Anybody else have questions? Or Jodi, is there something that you wanted to chat about that we didn't get to? I feel like holy cow, like an hour, it's almost an hour.
I guess the other thing I would think about, and I want to make sure that people think about, is your relationships. So we're in a relationship management business. Those relationships are really important. And when you ask about mailings to clients, I view my clients as also my home inspectors, my contractors, the attorneys that I work with, mortgage folks. I view all of those people as my clients. So guess who's getting this as well? Okay, so people sometimes forget that, like, you're doing business with them, but they are an opportunity to refer business to you as well. And if you have a really good relationship with those people and you're referring business to them, and it's hard, especially with like attorneys and home inspectors, because, you know, a lot of times they want to be neutral, but trust me, they know the agents that they like to work with, and they know the agents that are a pain in the butt, right? Or they also know the agents that have their acts together and those that don't. And if they do ever get into a position where somebody comes to them first and they say, listen, you're in this business. If you were buying and selling a house, which agent would you refer? Which agent would you work with? Trust me, they have an opinion. Right. So I think that's really important to kind of think about that, to leverage those relationships as well. So that's important to me, to take care of those people, especially if they're on my list, right? So they're not all on my list, but if they're on my list, I think it's really important to be thoughtful about that. That's a mutual respect type thing, but I view them as my clients, my relationship. So I want people to kind of be thoughtful about that, because those people will do things for you as well. Like Nancy, thank you, Andrea, referring me to Nancy at Premium. Like, they're going to do things to help you as well. So co-branding, I don't take advantage of her, you know, mailing me or giving me, you know, I haven't done a lot with that as far as events and things like that, like some other people have done. But I love the information that I can get from Premium that I can have at my open houses to educate my clients. And now it's got Nancy and my name on there for those clients. So I think the bottom line, you know, kind of having a balanced business, thinking about deliberately where you can leverage your time and where you can promote what you do, and then being a really good relationship manager is just really helpful. And you know what, by the way, my colleagues are also my clients. I really view that, like, they're not getting my mailings obviously, but you know, there's a few favorite agents that I have as well that I'm like, they're my go-to agents, or they're like, if I, you know, if there's a situation where I need to refer, you know, business, or they need to refer, you know, they don't want to handle something and they're going to, I view other agents as my clients, right? So I think sometimes people forget that.
Yeah.
They're your colleagues, you know.
What do you think your next big thing is?
As far as what?
I don't know. How about let's go business. Let's say 5-10 years from now.
Oh, well, that's a long time for me because I'm not young, but I do know my next big thing. I'm going to become dual licensed. So I'm going to be licensed in Florida. So that is a huge thing. And I'm working on that. So I think that's a huge thing. And we'll see where that takes me. You know, I think there's going to be a lot of shifting, not to get into any kind of political conversation, but, you know, our taxes suck, right? So I think there'll be some decisions that people make just to kind of have options lifestyle-wise in the southern states. We'll just call it that. But for me, it's Florida, and it's not you have to get all new license. There's no reciprocity. So unfortunately, but so I think that's a big step. I'm hoping to kind of have a good referral business going with that. There's a lot of loan officers and loan businesses here that actually are licensed in Florida. So there's some really cool things that can happen if you're thoughtful about, you know, kind of making that part of your business plan. Yeah. That's a big thing.
Yep, for sure. All righty. Anybody have any last minute things for Jodi? You can unmute yourself and just ask questions. Give everybody a second. No? Okay.
Feel free, if anybody, you know, shy here, if you want to reach out to me on anything that I've talked about, or I'm pretty much an open book. Like I'll share anything. I do mentor a couple of agents right now. And you know, I'll share anything that I have. It's all good.
Yeah. Well, Thank you for joining us this morning. I
Thanks
so
for
enjoyed talking
asking.
to you. You're welcome. You're welcome. I enjoyed chatting with you and getting to know you a little better, and
Good.
just appreciate all the information that you've provided for us, not only for just these people on, but I know that you'll get watched again and again and again and again. So thank you so much, honey. Have a great day.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Yep.